Hi, this is Miss Cairo. This is lesson 5-1. We're in a brand new unit, Unit 5, which is all about division. And today we're going to start off on page 163 in your activity books. Please have that open and ready. Please have your whiteboard, your expo marker, and your pencil ready as well. On page 163, please find the heading. It says Compare Division Methods. And then on the side, there's a vocabulary box. It says digit by digit method, expanded notation method, place value sections method. There are 3 division methods that we are going to be learning and practicing. And in just a few short lessons, you are going to be pros at all 3 methods. And we're going to preview them right now. So there is a word problem underneath the heading. I'm going to read it out loud and you're going to follow along with me. It says an airplane travels the same distance every day. It travels 3,822 miles in a week. How far does the airplane travel each day? So let's use our cube strategy to break apart this problem. Let's circle that important information about how far it travels in a week. It's 3,822 miles in a week. Go ahead and circle that information. Let's underline the question. How far does the airplane travel each day? So if it travels this much in a week, how much does it travel each day? Well, first of all, how many days are there in 1 week? There are 7 days. So we're going to take the total distance in a week. So 3,822. Write that out with me. Oh my gosh, mine is so messy. 3,822. Let's do a division symbol. And the divisor here, there's 7 days in a week, so we're going to divide this number by 7. They also demonstrated this division sentence in a rectangular model, so take a look on the side. In the middle, we have 3,822. On the side, we have 7, and then a question mark. So in other words, what times 7 equals 3,822? Or 3,822 divided by 7 is equal to what? The book has already solved this using all 3 methods. So we're going to look and preview it. We're going to notice a few things, and then we're going to get straight into practicing using these methods. The first method that the book used to solve this problem is a method called place value sections. I want you to label that method number 1. So in your book, draw a 1 and circle it with me. Take a look at the work that the book did and the setup of the problem. They drew out a box. On the side, they wrote a 7. Inside the box, they wrote the dividend, 3,822. I see that they put 500 at the top. 500 times 7 is 3,500. And then they subtracted to get 322. And then they continued on adding on boxes. So they kept on putting like what we can call partial quotients at the top, then multiplying, then subtracting, then getting an answer, bringing the answer over into a new box, dividing, multiplying, subtracting, and then they arrived at the answer of 546. We'll get some practice in with that. The next method is called the expanded notation method. I want you to label that as a number 2. That's set up using like the long division setup that we're used to. And when they first started to divide 7 into 3,822, they said it goes in 500 times. They showed the zeros and the multipliers. So when they put the digit 5, they continued with zeros. And then looking over at their work over here for each step, they kept on building what we are going to call partial quotients on top of each other and then added the 3 in this case, the 3 partial quotients together to get 546. So that's a second method. Method number 3 is digit by digit. Repeat after me, digit by digit. This is the one that you are probably most familiar with from 4th grade. This is the one that your parents at home or maybe older siblings will be probably most familiar with. Digit by digit, we've already practiced this some together in 5th grade already. We set it up this way with the dividend in the middle with the long division symbol and the divisor on the outside. And we put in only one digit at a time. We divide, multiply, subtract, check, bring down, and then repeat. And they also, again, with this method, arrived at 546 as their quotient or their answer. We're going to step away from this page. This page is great to be referring back to in case you forget any of the steps within any of these 3 methods. So we'll refer back to it quite a bit. We're going to hop on over. We're going to skip page 164 for now. We're going to hop on over to page 165. 165. Please find that page in your activity book. The heading on this page says work with remainders. And we're going to be talking a lot about this vocabulary here on the yellow box: dividend, divisor, quotient, remainder. There's a problem here, and there's two questions that go along with it about the remainder and how do we know is this correct or not. We'll talk more about these questions as we get the practice in right now, okay? So we're going to skip over 7 and 8 for now. Let's get straight into practicing solving these together, okay? So page 165, numbers 9 through 20, we're going to start off using the the digit by digit method. And with the digit by digit method, we've, like I said, we've already gotten some practice in. One of the videos that we've watched gave the trick of remembering this question to help guide us through the steps needed to solve using the digit by digit method. Remember this question: do monkeys sell crispy bananas? Do monkeys sell crispy bananas is easy to remember. We'll repeat that quite a bit. And why we're asking this question? Well, the first letters in each of these words are going to help us remind us what are the steps to take. So for do, that starts with the letter D. Think of divide. That also starts with a D. Monkey starts with M. For monkeys, think of multiply. That also starts with an M. Sell, think of subtract. S and S. Crispy, we're going to think of the letter C, which goes along with check. And bananas goes along with bring down. Both start with B. So I'll be referring back to that question quite a bit in today's lesson. And then again, I'm going to be using these vocabulary terms quite a bit when solving with these division problems. Divisor is the number on the outside. Dividends, the number in the middle of what I call basically like a little hut. And the quotient or the answer is going to be going on top of our long division symbol. Okay, let's get going. So for number 9, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to set up this problem on your whiteboard, and you are going to be displaying your work to your teacher to prove that you are in fact following along. You have to follow along. You have to be solving these problems with me in order to learn it. Okay, so number 9, let's write that out on our whiteboard. My tip for you guys is when you set up these problems, space out your digits. So we're going to draw a 6 as our divisor on the outside. We're going to draw a long division symbol. And then underneath it, we're going to draw out the number, spacing out our digits, 5,380. Does yours look like mine? Okay, so the first step for digit by digit is we're going to be dividing, okay? And what we're going to be dividing, we're going to be looking at this divisor, and we're going to start all the way on the left for a dividend, working our way over, seeing how many times 6 can go into each of these digits. So starting off for 5,380, what I want you to do is I want you to underline the first digit all the way to the left, which is the digit 5. You always want to look at the digit all the way closest to this divisor number. And you're asking yourself, how many times can 6 go into 5? So when I am asking this question, here's what I'm picturing in my head. 6 times what gets us something close, for example, to 5 without going over. So is there anything that we can multiply 6 by to get close to 5 without going over? It would be 0. Because 6 times 1 is 6, that's too much. We can't subtract 5 minus 6 here. Remember, whatever we get here, this number needs to be larger than this number in order for us to get to that subtraction step and do it correctly. So the answer for this one is 0. Some teachers and some students put an X. Some students and teachers put a 0 to help us keep track. I usually keep it blank but for this lesson, I'm going to put an X. So put an X above the 5. It's a 0. Nothing can go. We can't form any groups of 6 out of a group of 5. So we're going to keep on working our way over. That line that we started for 5, you're going to continue that line to the next digit. And now we have the number 53 underlined. Does yours look like mine? And we're asking ourselves, how many times can 6 go into 53 without going over? Okay, so I'm visualizing this in my head. 6 times what gets us close to 53 without going over? What do you think? Did you say 8? Yep. 6 times 8 is 48. Okay. 6 times 9 is 54. That's too much. 6 times 7 is 42. That's too little. 6 times 8, we're getting close to this number as possible without going over. So we put an 8 above the 3. That's going to be our, we've already started our quotient now. That's our 8 is going to be in the 100 spot for our answer. And I already said it out loud. 6 times 8 is 48. So underneath the 58, again, your lining up of your digits is really important. Stay nice and organized. So we're going to be subtracting now 53 minus 48. Does yours look like mine? So we just divided, we multiplied. Now our next step is subtract. What's 53 minus 48? You might need to borrow, or we could skip count over when we should get 5. Did you get 5? Great. So we just subtracted. Next step is to check. And what we're checking for, anytime you subtract, you look at your answer. Your answer for your subtraction problems has to be less than your divisor. So I'm checking, is 5 less than 6? Yes, it is. Okay. And the reason why we check, if I got an answer, for example, 7, that would be too much. That means I could make one more group out of this 6 and I'd have to erase, whatever number I put up here and try one up. So we'll get into more practice with those situations soon. So check is good. Then our next step is bring down. We look at the next digit over in our dividend. The next digit over is the 8. I like to draw the arrow to show that it's being brought down. And then we're going to place an 8 next to the 5 to get the number 58. Does yours look like mine? Great job. Thanks for following along so carefully. Okay, and then now we're going to repeat the steps, basically. We're going to start back over for do monkeys sell bananas. We're going to start back over at divide. How many times can 6 go into 58? 9 times. So the 9 is going to go in our quotient. Again, digit by digit, it's going to go next to the 8. 9 is going to be in the 10 spot. 9 times 6 is 54. That helped. This already kind of helped guide me that my answer was going to be large. I knew that 8 times 6 was 48. That looked already like too little. So that's why in my head I went up 1 to see if that would work. And it does. 9 times 6 is 54. So underneath 58, you write out 54, nice and organized. We divided, we multiplied. Our next step is to subtract. Please subtract 58 minus 54. Did you get 4? Great job. Next step is check. Is 4 less than 6? Yes, it is. We're doing a good job. Next step then is to bring down. We look over at the next digit over in our dividend, and the next digit here is 0. We bring it down. I draw an arrow and place the 0 next to the 4, and now we have 40. We're going to start the process all over again. We're going to be looking now and starting over. We're going to divide. How many times can 6 go into 40 without going over? So in my head, I'm thinking 6 times what gets me something close to 40 without going over. 6 times 5 is 30. That's too little. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 7 is 42. That's too much. So 6 times 6 is the best fit here. The 6 is going to go in the one spot in our quotient or our answer. And then our next step is to multiply. What's 6 times 6? 36. That's going to go underneath our 40. Next step now is to subtract. What's 40 minus 36? 4. Good. Next step is to check. Is 4 less than 6? Can we make any more groups? Nope, we're on the right track. Next step is to bring down. So I'm looking up here my dividend. Is there anything else for us to bring down? There's not. So we've arrived at our answer, but we have here some leftover, we have a leftover amount. And this is what we call our remainder, okay? We'll work more with remainders in next lessons, but for right now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna draw an R over next to our quotient. R stands for remainder, that's how much we have left over. We have 4 left over. And then it says, the direction says complete each division and give the remainder. We have a quotient with a remainder here, 896 remainder 4, and we just use the digit by digit method to solve. Go ahead and put that in your book and get ready to show your teacher your work. After we put that in our book, we want to see all your work that you are in fact following along.